I mean, if you look at it, jobs are under threat, but they're typically the white-collar jobs.
Yeah.
I think and every industrial revolution has shown that it creates more jobs than what people lose. History shows that. So I don't believe that AI will reduce the number of jobs, but I think it will change the order of jobs. And then I believe the jobs that are going to get created in the next decades are going to be in areas that we're yet to discover. And that puts a lot of pressure on HRD ministers like me who are trying to figure out the curriculum and the entire ecosystem. Saying that, fundamentally AI is here. It's going to change our lives. And as a government, we are looking at how can we expose women to basic AI tools, students to basic AI tools, because farmers to basic AI tools. I think that can fundamentally transform their lives. It can double their income in certain use cases. So just giving them that access and exposure alone can transform the way they're living.
Do you mind if I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's undeniable that AI is going to disrupt. And so you can either choose to be disrupted or the disruptor. And what I think is so incredible about what the minister has just said is by taking a proactive approach, particularly to education and upskilling, you're enabling your people to be the disruptors and to be the ones driving that job creation.
And let's talk about skilling.
Yeah, one of the areas where we are seeing great results, and this is in partnership with Microsoft, is that rural women who were otherwise sitting at home and did not have jobs, now because of AI, can lend their voice for LLM purposes.
Right, large language models. Yeah.
And they are now getting economically benefited. And because of LLM, they're not only getting economically benefited, they're also correcting for algorithms as far as AI is concerned, which can be biased because women's representation is not in those algorithms. So I think there is huge potential in terms of how you can, like the minister said, that how you can look at people who could be marginalized in local communities and what kind of jobs may be available to them, but also correcting for AI as well.
Matt Renner, let's talk a little bit about LLMs, or large language models. They represent huge opportunities but challenges as well. Would you like to see India being more actively involved in the LLM process? The creation of LLMs, large language models.
Yeah, and look, I think it goes back to that. What's that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd love to see it. The reality behind LLMs and AI and just crunching of all this data as it works through that, the more the better. It just feeds it, makes it more accurate, it makes it more useful. I think to a couple of comments, I love the disruptor comment. But the vast majority of use cases we see globally, and this is across all industries, are less about replacement, more about assistance, right? So making those folks better at what they do to ultimately see more patients, treat their customers better, learn faster, right, as it goes through it. So I think that's a real important point. So the more the better relative to that. The other piece that you mentioned earlier, which I think is highly underrated, but also connects to education, is the applicability of language within India, right? So you look at some of the things we're running, and we're working with educators within India. We're up to 121 different languages that you can translate almost instantly. And that's incredibly powerful when you're trying to communicate and speed education. And again, it goes back to my earlier comment, which is the more the better, right? I mean, this is one technology that actually we encourage more and more participation versus less, or trying to refine it, right? I think it's a much better scenario. So we welcome, I mean, our strategy just is not to do a Google commercial here, but our strategy is to enable and provide the platform so you can build models, right? We have models, we have a ton of models that work on our platform, but we recognize that as a strategy for whether it's a company, a state, it's an institution, wherever that might be, is use multiple models, right?
Yeah.
Bring in more data. So I would say more is better, is probably the way we look at it.
Let me just sort of put across a rather basic question to you, Mr. Lokesh, because this is being broadcast to a lot of people who may not understand the nuances of large language models. If you've got AI solving all your problems or your queries, then where is the education? It's not the way that we've learned education. We've had to study. We don't use Grok, as I do, to sort of get answers to questions. My research as a news anchor has gone down, time spent to a few seconds from a few hours. It helps immensely. But then if you've got an entire generation of people who don't have to do the hard work, then are we not missing something? I mean, creativity doesn't come from AI. Creativity comes from the way we've been educated.
Yeah, exactly.
Your thoughts?
I mean, you've answered the question in that sense.
Shall we move on?
You answered the question. See, the problem in India is we look at outputs and not outcomes in education. And that's the fundamental shift you're going to see what Andhra Pradesh is going to do. So outcome-based education.
Right.
We'll have time to, we'll be able to free up time for the students to actually critically analyze things, to look at things in a very systematic manner, to answer the questions that otherwise wouldn't have been. Because today I look at my own child, I mean, and the questions that he asks me, I'm like, really? I mean, he's 9 years old. I'm like, it never even occurred to me till my teens.
Right.
I mean, they are learning fast and they love to be challenged. I think the LLMs and the AI models enable them to be challenged even better.
Yeah.
And I think that's the role. Again, do you want to be disrupted or you want to be the disruptor? I think
Would you
Andhra
like
will
to-
be the disruptor in this case.
Would you like to add to my query on AI versus the education, the style of education we were educated in?
I mean, again, I do think it's about envisioning what the future will be, and we don't know exactly. So we have to prepare our children and the next generation for that. And that's going to take creativity. But even, I would say, as we see AI tutors rolling out, they're not replacing teachers, they're enhancing teachers. And so I think some of that we need to just really lean into, go beyond the fear, and, really lean into it. Be the disruptor. Do it in a way that's going to bring benefits for our kids.
Yeah.
One thing that I would add is the fact that otherwise education has been standardized. It's universal, right? The fact that in LMICs or lower and middle income countries, 7 out of 10 children cannot even read by the time that they're in their grade 10, or they're 10 years old, sorry, is now AI allows for adaptive learning, right? It allows for teachers to be more efficient as well. They can train themselves looking at the class. They can revise their curriculum. They can do, build on tools that can allow for educational outcomes, which is what the minister was talking about. So there's definite benefit in terms of what technology allows for. At the same time, efficiency, like you've been speaking about, how much time do you have? Teachers will have more time in terms of designing curriculum that can help children learn